Macbeth, Act 5 Summary. Act 5, Scene 1. It is night time at Dunsinane Castle. A doctor and a gentlewoman meet and discuss the strange and unsettling behaviour of Lady Macbeth, who has been sleepwalking. Lady Macbeth then enters the stage in a sleepy trance, holding a candle before her. She begins to speak in confusing and disturbing language. At first she focuses on a spot of blood, which is apparently on her hand. She then seems to recall regretfully the sight of the murdered Duncan, questioning, "Yet who would have thought the old man to have had so much blood in him?" Following this, she begins to wail about the death of both Lady Macduff and Banquo, speaking in repetitive language and continually returning to remark upon the imagined blood upon her hands. She leaves the stage, and the doctor advises the gentlewoman to look after her. A useful quote to analyse in this scene is the famous line, "Out, damned spot," which reveals Lady Macbeth's guilt-ridden hallucination of blood upon her hands. The line is significant as it connects with the motif of blood in the play as a whole. Here the blood links to the theme of guilt and is symbolic of the murders which seem to permanently stain her thoughts. The line also creates irony, since Lady Macbeth had previously stated, "A little water clears us of this deed," advising her husband to clean his hands after murdering Duncan. Now, significantly, Lady Macbeth cannot wash the blood from her hands. Her unwillingness to emotionally deal with the murders seems to have resulted in her current state of madness. Act 5, Scene 2. Near to Dunsinane, a group of Scottish lords, including Angus and Lennox, discuss the approach of the English army, led by Malcolm. They reveal that Macbeth is fortifying the castle and preparing for battle, though Angus notes Macbeth seems to command no love from his servants or soldiers. The group then depart to meet up with Malcolm and the army near Birnam Wood. Act 5, Scene 3. Inside Dunsinane, Macbeth enters bragging to his attendants that he has nothing to fear, since none of woman born can harm him. He also reiterates another of the prophecies, that he will continue to rule till Birnam Wood comes to Dunsinane. Macbeth seems unstable, however, and commands his servant Seaton to put on his armour. The doctor then brings to Macbeth the report of Lady Macbeth's illness, which Macbeth dismissively instructs the doctor to cure her of that. Act 5, Scene 4. Close to Birnam Wood, Malcolm gathers with the other Scottish thanes and the English lord Siward. Malcolm decides each soldier will cut down a bough of wood from Birnam to use to disguise their numbers from Macbeth's troops. Act 5, Scene 5. Returning to Dunsinane Castle, Macbeth, who is becoming more and more unstable, commands for his banners to be hung from the castle walls and brags again that they will repel the coming army. A cry is heard from within the castle, and Seaton arrives to inform Macbeth that Lady Macbeth is dead. Macbeth then utters his final soliloquy to the audience, where he laments that life is just a meaningless passage of time and signifies nothing. A messenger then arrives and informs Macbeth that Birnam Wood is advancing on the castle. Macbeth fearfully bemoans the misleading talk of the witches, but decides that if he is to die, at least it will be as a soldier. This scene contains Macbeth's raw and emotionless "tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow" soliloquy, where he bitterly mourns the passing of Lady Macbeth and his own purposeless existence. Shakespeare uses a motif of time within the lines, as words such as tomorrow, yesterdays, and day to day convey a sense of meaninglessness. Macbeth has come to see life as a pointless passage of time to dusty death. In the second half of the soliloquy, Shakespeare uses metaphor in "life's but a walking shadow," which again expresses a dire and desperate realization for Macbeth that his life seems empty. Furthermore, the metaphor of a shadow represents that he has no agency. Are his actions manipulated by fate as the shadows are by their owners? Act 5, Scene 6. Malcolm and his troops arrive at the castle, shrouded by the boughs of wood cut from Birnam. The wood has indeed come to Dunsinane. Act 5, Scene 7. As the battle commences, Macbeth again seems confident in his safety, repeating the prophecy that none of woman-born shall harm him. Macbeth is challenged by the brave son of the English lord Siward. They fight, and Macbeth kills him. As Macbeth exits, Macduff, still enraged by the murder of his family, arrives in search of Macbeth, uttering, "Tyrant, show thy face!" Act 5, Scene 8. Macduff and Macbeth finally meet as Macduff cries, "Turn, hellhound, turn!" They briefly exchanged words, with Macbeth crediting, "Of all men else I have avoided thee." The fight then begins. Macbeth continues to persevere with confidence in the witch's prophecy, but Macduff suddenly reveals that he was born by caesarean section, cut from his mother's womb, thus confirming that the witches have deceived Macbeth. Macbeth briefly calls for an end to the fight, but on Macduff's call to yield or surrender, Macbeth decides to take fate into his own hands and cries, "Before my body I throw my warlike shield." Despite fighting bravely, Macbeth is killed, fulfilling the witch's prophecy. A key quote from this scene is Macduff's revelation that he was, from his mother's womb, untimely ripped, which confirms that he was not in the strictest terms born of a woman. This highlights the theme of equivocation in the play. Equivocation means the use of ambiguous or misleading expressions. Throughout the play, characters use half-truths to cover up their intentions, and the Weird Sisters are the foremost of these. As Macduff reveals the truth to Macbeth, Shakespeare highlights the dangers of putting your faith in witchcraft, nodding to the Jacobean king James I's own fear and fascination with the dangers of dabbling with dark powers. Act 5, Scene 9. This is the final scene of the play. The battle is won and Macduff delivers the head of the tyrant Macbeth to Malcolm, whom Macduff hails as king. Malcolm makes a speech before the other Thanes, honouring and rewarding those who fought for him. Malcolm's words identify his intentions to glorify Scotland and not himself, which portrays him as a noble king, in stark contrast to Macbeth. He invites them to see him crowned as king at Scone. For this scene, Malcolm's metaphorical description of Macbeth and Lady Macbeth as "this dead butcher" and his fiend-like queen is a good focus for analysis. Macbeth's brutality and violence is highlighted by the noun butcher, which emphasises his cruel and tyrannical reign. For Lady Macbeth, the noun fiend denotes an evil spirit, which recalls the fell prayer she made to the spirits in Act 1, Scene 5. Shakespeare uses the end of the play to highlight the tragic downfall of both Macbeth and Lady Macbeth as a warning to those who would wish to betray the true king and to those who trust in the deception of evil.